Well, hello to those of you who are here on Facebook and YouTube. The question they've been talking about around their tables was, do you feel like it's easier to be holy alone or around other people? How many of you, just show of hands, this is an either or kind of question. How many of you lean toward alone? It's easier to be holy alone. How many of you, okay, that's maybe the majority. How many of you lean toward it's easier to be holy around other people? Okay, a few. Wow, that was a pretty even split. There's no right or no wrong. Actually, I've been asking kind of trick questions this entire series. If we are considering holiness in our preconceived definition of like some kind of moral standard of perfection, right, like perfect behavior performance, then that question makes a little more sense. But where we've been is, in the first week we talked about that is not holiness. According to the Bible at all, holiness is God. Holiness emanates from God, flows from God. For us then, as humans, holiness begins with an encounter with a holy God. When God is near, when God touches us, when God speaks to us, when God encounters us, we are drawn into God's holiness. It's a different way of thinking, but that's over and over and over these stories in the Bible, what they kind of share with us. And then the second week, it's like, well, how? What happens to us when we're drawn into God's holiness? What does that do to us, our minds, our bodies, our souls? And we saw how the angel touched Isaiah's lips with a burning coal, and we realized he was exposed, but he was transformed. And that holiness does that to us. God's holiness kind of just, it's like a fire that whooshes and purifies and transforms and fills us with holy love. And then last week we talked about, well, who? The question was, who is it for? Who does that happen to? And we read the story in the beginning of Acts. It happened to like literally all, A-L-L, everyone that was gathered in that room that day. It didn't skip over anybody. Holiness is for everyone. And when, like, God's timing is like to gather, to wait, to pray, to continue seeking God's holiness all the time. And so now I'm asking today, like, once something is made holy, how does it stay holy, or does it stay holy? Or for how long? It's funny because it seems like I can only stay holy as long as no one bothers me. Anyone else feel like that? Like if the world would just leave me alone, not test my patience, let me be. I bet I could be more like Jesus. Have you heard this prayer? Some of you might have heard this prayer. Dear God, so far today, I've done all right. Haven't gossiped, been greedy, been grumpy, nasty, selfish, or overindulgent. I'm very thankful for that. But in a few minutes, God, I'm going to get out of bed. And from then on, I'm probably going to need a lot of help. And again, these are funny because when we think of holiness as performance, we get in these kinds of mindsets. But how has this series challenged how you think of holiness? Are you starting to see a picture of a holy God who wants to spread God's holy love to us, all of us, and fill us with this holy love also, to perfect us in love? Or it's just so tempting to continue to think of it as perfect performance. Maybe it's that performance mindset that makes us think we can be holier alone. For any of us who thought, ooh, I think I can be holier alone. The Pharisees certainly tried to stay away from other people particularly other people they considered unclean or sinners. They viewed holiness as something that emanated from them, right? And so if they rubbed up against a dirty person or an unclean person or a sinful person, their dirtiness might pollute that Pharisee's holiness. And that's how they walked around and treated it. And so they treated holiness like a pair of white jeans that you wear, and you don't want to get it dirty, you have to keep away. You have to keep away from others, right? And if it's about following the rules like that, why don't I just sit at home? Especially this day and age, and you work from home. I mean, if the goal is holiness and that's what it's about, why don't I just stay away from people, set apart? Don't let people corrupt me. My zen, my peace. I can stay holy, I can stay chill. I think a lot of people nowadays, it's very, very popular to have this sort of mindset. We hear so many people, how many times do you hear people say, I'm not going to let them destroy my peace, or no drama with these people. And this idea of like, in my own bubble, I'm good, right? But there was one Pharisee and teacher of the law who, again, literally did the exact opposite. You might be surprised to hear Jesus being called a Pharisee because he had so many words about that. But his beliefs lined up with the Pharisees, not the Sadducees. And so in the Second Temple period, that would have been his classification. But anyway, Jesus, and when we hear Jesus, again, this is God. This is holy, 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 like holiness embodied in a person. Jesus intentionally went among the crowds of people. If we think we're holy by staying in a closet of prayer all day, we miss that holiness, when holiness was here, he lived on the earth and literally walked among us. He would have been found even coming close to the likes of you and me. And everyone, the people that society viewed as the dirtiest, the lowliest, the most unclean, Jesus went near to them, the prostitutes, the sinners, the poor, the disabled. He spoke with them, talked to them. He got close to them, ate and drank with them. This was so scandalous for a holy man at that time. Holiness actually touched the bleeding woman, dead people. Holiness touched lepers. Imagine that. God is constantly challenging our religious ideas. Instead of Jesus feeling like he had this pair of white jeans that he didn't want to get dirty, Jesus knew he was holiness and wanted to go and be near and touch as many and spread his holiness everywhere to everyone. Our story today is just one verse. How many people like short Bible readings? This is one verse. This is your day. It's Matthew 9:9. As Jesus went on from there, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at the tax collector's booth. If this guy was sitting at the tax collector's booth, who was he? Okay, a tax collector. Yeah, that wasn't a trick question, actually. Yeah. Follow me, Jesus told him, and Matthew got up and followed him. This day and age, we're not very surprised by that. We're like, okay, cool, what's next? This is incredibly surprising and scandalous. Matthew is the least holy looking or person deemed holy in that whole entire culture. He's the worst imaginable sinner the Jews can even think of. He's a traitor of his people. He works for the Roman Empire. He collects unreasonable amounts of taxes that make people, drive them into poverty, to sickness, to death, can't feed their families. And then he keeps even more of their money for himself so that he can live a wealthy lifestyle while they suffer in poverty. I wonder how lonely it was for Matthew in a culture that hated him so. How difficult is it when you don't belong? Have you ever felt like an outsider, like you didn't belong? We live in a culture, and this is where I get to gripe about modern society, all right? So just indulge me for a second. Our particular place and time in history that you and I share is so weird if you look at the entire human history. It's weird because of how isolated human beings are in this time and place. It's never, ever, ever been like that. We are pack animals. We're tribe animals. But In our place and time in history, it's one of the loneliest, most depressed, most anxious, least fulfilled in all of human history. So much about our lifestyle. Even just think about, friends, our mode of transportation. It doesn't include walking down the street and waving to our neighbors. It doesn't include interacting with anyone. It doesn't include public transportation, but driving alone in a car from our own private garages to our parking spots. And our homes, once full of extended family, once with front porches, once a community place, are now nuclear family based. And not only that, more people than ever live alone. Did you know this? This is like a significant statistic I'm getting ready to share with you. There are approximately 38.5 million one-person households in the United States, and that represents 29% of all households in the United States. Almost 1/3 of every household is a one-person household. This is a historic high for the United States and a massive shift from, if you look back at 1940, where 7.7% of households were occupied by a single individual. We're up to now 29%. It's not right, it's not wrong, it's not good, it's not bad. It's a shift that we may need to take notice of. There are a lot of people living alone and don't have that built-in support in their homes. When people in our society are forced to be around others, this is another thing. It's almost like we're allergic to each other. When people in our society are forced to be around others with technology, we stay in our own little worlds, as if we're not even around anybody. We have our headphones on, we hardly look at one another, we hardly hear one another, notice one another, let alone speak to one another, laugh with one another, or care for one another. As a result, modern society has the highest rates of depression, anxiety, suicide, schizophrenia, chronic loneliness than ever before. I read a book not too long ago called Tribe, on homecoming and belonging by a guy named Sebastian Junger. Well, it would be Junger, but I'll say Junger. He said, I never said it out loud. Thanks. Okay. He said there were literally 0 accounts that we have of depression-based suicide among American Indians. Why do you think that is? They lived in such close daily community. They shared the work, they shared the tasks, they shared the celebrations, they shared the grief. And there was also, this is just a side note, because humans now are weirder than ever before, there was co-sleeping with parents and children. There was 90% of the time infants were carried. That much closeness. And community support. He refers in his book to the self-determination theory developed by psychologists Edward Deci and Richard Ryan, that's widely accepted in the psychological community. And in that self-determination theory, it's said that there are 3 things that are needed for human wellness. One is for humans to feel competent, that they can do something, that they contribute somewhere, that they can affect something for the good. So for humans to feel competent. Number 2, for humans to feel authentic, that they can be who they are, that they don't have to hide. And 3, and maybe the most important, is for humans to feel connectedness to others. It's not just a good idea, it's not just a nice bonus, it's truly a necessity for who we are and how we're created. And modern society seems to work against all 3 of those fundamental needs we have as humans, all 3. It's just the way that things have become work against our flourishing and our human wellness. Instead, economic and marketing forces of modern society have engineered an environment that maximizes consumption at the long-term cost of well-being. This should bother us. At the very least, we need to be aware of this. When they have studied suicide rates, you know what they correlate with? They go up and down based on affluence and urbanization. It's such a problem, and I'm going to share this, and then I'm going to get off my society gripe. It's such a problem that Junger pointed out a disturbing and puzzling fact. Recent research shows that suicide and depression in modern society actually decrease during war and times of catastrophic events. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. They decrease. You'd think, oh, war, tornadoes, floods, they would increase. No, they decrease. Why is what they wanted to ask. And so Charles Fritz did a study of 9,000 survivor interviews. Why do large-scale disasters produce such mentally healthy conditions? And do you know what they found? What they found was wars and natural disasters help people create close connections and bonds that they do not have otherwise in modern society. How pathetic is that? That we need something like that. To look at each other and to work together and talk to each other and care for each other. War and shared adversity force modern humans out of isolation, providing a profound sense of community, equality, and mutual reliance that we crave but often lack during peacetime. Even for soldiers, Junger argues that the loss of closeness that veterans felt when returning home is most often a root cause of high rates of PTSD. Ironically, their loss of intense, unified community with their other soldiers and makes peace feel more isolating and stressful than war times. And you think, why? Why do we live like this? What are we doing, friends? If anyone knows the sting of loneliness, people in our place and time do. Still, ancient culture was much more connected than we are. I saw this meme, and this is where ancient culture and modern culture collide. This meme that's on the screen for you. No one ever talks about Jesus' greatest miracle, having 12 close friends in his 30s. And there's a picture of them at the Last Supper. It's like nowadays, and we all laugh at that because it's so true. And how sad is that it's so hard to find friends, close friends, supportive friends, intimate, deep friendships, spiritual friendships. So Jesus walks up to the lonely and hated Matthew in his booth and says, follow me. And he's like, okay. And he left his tax collector's booth and job and life. When you read that verse, does it seem too simple? Like if someone came up to you in your cubicle and said, hey, quit your job, hit the road with me. Would you shrug your shoulders and be like, sure, why not? Let's do this. I've heard people say things like, there must have been something so magnetic about Jesus. There must have been something so attractive. He must have been like glowing, because it's God, it's Jesus. There must have been a radiant power, kind of like Jedi mind control. Matthew, follow me. He's like, okay. But I would argue that's not what's happening here at all. That's so much out of context. So what do we know about this quick context? First of all, Jesus is in his hometown here in Capernaum, where he made his adult residence. He moved from Nazareth and became a grown-up Jesus in Capernaum. And Matthew was probably Jesus' tax collector. He was the tax collector in Capernaum. Who knows how many conversations they had already had? We can only guess what their interactions might have been like. Maybe Matthew could tell that Jesus, even though he was a Jew and a poor Jew, treated him differently. Maybe he was encountered by that holy love time and time again. Maybe Jesus spoke to him with dignity, with respect. Maybe he realized Jesus even loved him and cared about him as a person, not just as a despicable traitor, as his label. And if you look at the context right before this, Jesus had just healed a paralyzed man in the verses leading up to this. And he got up and he started walking. And the verse just before it, Matthew 9:8, said, when the crowd saw this, the healing of the paralyzed man, they were filled with awe and they praised God who had given such authority to man. The crowds were abuzz. They were buzzing with the excitement of this healer, this man named Jesus. And maybe Matthew was in that crowd. It wasn't a very big town. They were very well connected. They walked, they shared the marketplace. People were outside all the time. This is news spreads fast in a pedestrian culture. He probably already knew Jesus' character, and now he's gaining respect and popularity as a rabbi and a miracle worker now and a healer. That's so exciting. Matthew could be like, I know that guy. I collect his taxes, you know. But Matthew still has a huge problem. He was a greedy sinner. He did cheat the people and take more money from them than he had to. He saw their grinding poverty, hunger, and need, and he still benefited from and participated in a system that oppressed them and punished them for not paying up. He did not belong to them. He was an outsider, and he probably felt like he always would be, that there was no possible way, no way that he could change how he was perceived, if he was accepted, how deeply and widely he was hated. He would never be a part of that people, his people. This incredible rabbi and miracle worker, Jesus, would never, he thought, want to get that close to someone like Matthew. And then the entire world changed for Matthew in one verse that we read. Of all the people in the town that were lining up to be in Jesus' inner circle, to be one of his disciples, of all the parents who were hoping and praying that their sons would be chosen to follow this rabbi, there's something different about him. He's a healer. He's an amazing teacher. He's a miracle worker. I want my son to learn from him. This Jesus, this embodiment of holiness, does something shocking. This Jesus chooses, of all people, Matthew, the tax collector. Sometimes that happens. I mean, it's God. He's calling, and he's choosing us, just like he chose Matthew. Does it make a little bit more sense now that he immediately got up and followed Jesus? To anybody? I mean, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity here. For Matthew, for us today, holiness creates a new family and a new future. And a new future. There's a verse in Hebrews in chapter 2, 10 and 11. It says, Jesus, in bringing many sons and daughters to glory, it was fitting that God, for whom and through whom everything exists, should make the pioneer of their salvation perfect through what he suffered. Both the one who makes people holy and the ones who are made holy are of the same family. So Jesus is not ashamed to call them brothers and sisters. Not a performance, not a perfect behavior code, not just always doing everything right. Hebrews talks about holiness relationally. It reframes it relationally. The one who makes people holy and those who are made holy are of the same family. Friends, this is stunning theology. Holiness is not a separation from people. It is belonging to God. And being welcomed into God's family. If I don't get holy because of what I do, if I don't stay holy because of what I do, I am actually already called holy. I'm invited, I'm accepted, I'm baptized into a family. I belong to God, you belong to God, and we are part of a holy people. This is such good news. Holiness is no longer earning acceptance. It's about being called into belonging. Holiness creates a new family, a new future. I can't tell you how many adults I meet in my generation who are extremely lonely. Literally, they don't know how to find friends. They don't know how to make friends, keep friends, stay connected to literally anybody. In general, we just aren't good at friending. In this culture, they crave community, shared life, shared joy, shared love. And it's not just my generation. It's every single generation today. It's the elderly, it's the teenagers, and the young adults, the kids. Friends, everyone you know needs the church. Needs the belonging, the acceptance we have here. We don't need wars or natural disasters to help us talk to each other, form connections, and love one another and work together. Instead, start inviting everyone you know to be part of the church. Be invitational like Jesus. He walked right up to that tax collector's booth and surprised him. Give them the gift and the opportunity to be drawn into healing and restorative community like the one we have here. I'm so baffled why there are so many empty churches. We have created space for this. People can find what they're looking for, what they need, what they're desperate for, the community and the deep intimacy and friendship and belonging that they crave. Because that's what holiness did for Matthew. It gave him a family, an authentic life, a purpose. All three of those things psychologists say we have to have for human wellness. That's what holiness does for us too. It creates a new family of deep love and connectedness and a new future. But still, we work against ourselves. And instead of going to churches, I don't know what we're doing. We're not making friends. We're sitting alone. So my challenge to you today is to think of 8 people to invite, text them. Say, come be a part of this community. Not come see this show or come hear a great preacher or the music's super fan. Come be a part of a community of openness, of inclusiveness, of love and forgiveness. Come get to know us. It might take some time, but we'll grow on you. Let's pray. God, you have everything that we need. I don't know what it must feel like for you to look on as we shut our doors, shut our hearts, get lost in our own bubbles. And then we're so sad and so lonely, so depressed. We long and we crave to be known, to be loved, to be accepted, to be part of a community. And you have those to give us, God. I pray you'd help us overcome our fear of being around others, our fear of opening ourselves to community. I pray that you would make your faith communities safe places for people. When they do open up, when they do share some of their lives, that they could be received with grace, with open arms, with so much gentleness and care, with your love and your holiness. Thank you for being the kind of God that doesn't just sit far away, but comes to us and does for us what we cannot do on our own. And Lord, as we share communion today, let this be a reminder. It's communion because it's about community, because there is one loaf, but there are many of us, God. And the gift you gave and the love that you came to spread, God, you give to us as a people. We give thanks to you. Help us to understand better. Help us to love deeper. I pray that you'd pour out your Holy Spirit on these elements of bread and juice, and by some holy mystery that you, God, would transform them for us, that they would be your body, your blood, your offering to us of grace and forgiveness. And Lord, as we say yes by sharing and taking these in, God, would you continue to work your holiness all in and through and among us. And I pray all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.